Hello, everybody. Welcome to Profiling Evil Live by Mike King. I'm really happy today. I pulled Skylar out of the back office, and I thought we'd just jump on and chat a little bit, Skylar, about things that are happening. But we're going to try something new, folks. The back office says I need to open myself up to interrogation by all of you. So we're going to do Ask Mike Anything. I want to shout out my employer for the fact that I get to have lunch whenever I want it. So Skylar, I don't know. Thanks for taking time out from work and jumping on with me. And Gail, thanks for that comment. What did the note say that Ramirez slid to you across the table?
Oh,
yeah, Gail, good investigative question. Now, Skylar.
Sounds like he's dodging it. So this is, again, Ask Mike Anything. This isn't Ask Mike only about cases. This is your opportunity to ask him anything you're curious about. There's a lot of stuff sitting behind him in his desk that you see every week. There's, things that we talked about, old stories, whatever. So just ask anything. We want to hear from everybody. I mean, there's lots of people already in here, Mike. I don't know. We got lots.
Of shout out to our mods. Thanks. I saw Miss Sophia there, and I'm seeing Kristen Froscheiser is in. Joe Me. It's always cool, Skylar, to see folks bailing in and taking part on things.
A person wants to know how you're so cool. I'd like to know that too.
Wow, that is so kind. Thank you so much for asking that. And I live by the motto, the older I get, the better I was.
The older you get, the better you were.
Yeah,
okay.
There you go.
I like it.
Hey, it's been a crazy week. I don't know if you're going to pop up questions, Skylar, or just...
We're just going to let you take a deep breath here, Mike.
Okay.
Deep breath. Calm down. We're here for the people watching. So Moonlight View wants to know your favorite place on Earth.
Oh, man. I actually, Moonlight View, have two. I love the Big Island of Hawaii, just because there are all the ecosystems are on the Big Island, so you can go from one place to another. But my absolute favorite thing to do is to fly to Europe, preferably Eastern Europe, with Bonnie and just start driving. And we go with no agenda and start driving. And if we see a castle on a hillside that we want to look at, we go check it out. So the proper side of me says that. The other side, I would have to say, is one of those rivers we've thrown flies on up in the Alaskan outback, looking for sockeye salmon. How about you? I don't know.
Me or I already forgot who asked that question. Sorry. Moonlight View.
Moonlight View. Yeah, you'll have to put back in there.
Put your favorite place.
What hers is. This folks is really hard for me because I like to kind of pre-engineer where my thoughts are going, and the back office says I'm going to just loosen up today and just have some fun talking to you all.
So let's hear your hobbies. You guys just heard one, fly fishing. What are some of your other hobbies?
I'm going to ask the back office to pull up a picture of one of my beautiful little granddaughters holding a trout up on our little piece of heaven in the mountains. One thing is watching those little granddaughters and now grandson learn how to fly fish, and that is one of my hobbies. I think I don't know that I really have great hobbies.
This
has kind of become a full-time hobby, but have always loved just kind of serving in the faith community, and I love the outdoors. I love to get on a four-wheeler and just head out in the woods and look around. So
perfect. So everyone knows we do have a back office being a back office. There he is. Hey, Tyler. He's not going to like that. So let's see. We got lots. I kind of want to see if I can answer some of these questions before Mike does. See how well I know him.
Yeah.
So here's one. Mike, what's your favorite junk food? I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's either chocolate caramels, those ones from Costco, or
caramels
salted chocolate.
Like crack cocaine to me. Yeah.
Yeah. Or a Carl's Jr. breakfast.
Had the Carl's Jr. for breakfast this morning, so you've got me profiled well.
I saw another one that I thought was pretty good. It was asking if you're still an active member of a police department.
No, I retired many years ago. That said, the police department where I live, the chief said to me that he wanted me to keep my training hours up because at some point I was going to quit doing private enterprise and come back to police work. So I actually just hit my 41st year of being a certified peace officer in the state of Utah. I'm still a Category 1 peace officer. My training hours are up to date, and I still report to a police department and maintain that status, but I am not a sworn police officer at this time. And boy, I'll tell you, my hat's off to those who are, especially with the climate that they've had to work in the last 2 years.
Absolutely. Well, everyone, there's a lot of questions coming in. We love it. If you want to make sure yours gets read, you can always super chat it or whatever the lingo is for all that stuff. I'm going to pop up as many as I can. This is a good question. Mike's answered it before, so let's pop it up again and have him tell a quick story about how he chose the career.
Well, when I was a child, I wanted to be one of two things, either a garbage man or a policeman. And I don't know why those were the two choices. When I was about 13, I actually was about the time of the moon landing. I decided I wanted to be an astronaut, and I wrote a letter to NASA. They never responded. So I told them at that time that I wanted to be an astronaut. And apparently my application was lost because I never was called back. And then I realized that I get car sick really easy, so I probably would have never survived. But by the time I was a junior in high school, I was at times living a little bit of a misspent youth, and a Salt Lake City police officer took me under his wing. At the same time, a Salt Lake County Sheriff's deputy who lived near me decided to take me with him on a ride along. And at that point going forward, I knew what I wanted to do. So
I resent this, Wendy. Or
well, it's pretty accurate. It's hard to say. I mean, that's why we have Tim on the team, is so that we aren't three.
Yeah. I'm out. This is a good one, Maria. I'm out of state, so it's a Carl's Jr. breakfast. It's not that good. It's not that good.
So yeah, it is probably one of the finest breakfasts on the planet, but you have to know the cook in the back, and there's a delightful Hispanic woman who, when I walk through the door, throws my sausages in the deep fryer to get them as crispy as she can, and that's what makes, with pepper jack cheese, a perfect Carl's Jr. Now, Carl's has another name nationally. Does anyone know what that is? And you can put that.
Well, while they're thinking, Sketty Nona, we are. So I'm just grabbing the ones that I see. So don't shy away from true crime questions and things.
Yeah, so, is that Bichon that she had there on that picture? So
I don't know. Well, I don't think that's a Bichon, but couple questions about another book. Do we have another book coming out? Mike has a few books out that we have up for sale on the website, and through Amazon you can find them. But is there another one in the works?
Yeah, actually, folks, in July we are going to be releasing a book called She Knew No Fear, and maybe well, I don't know if the back office is ready to share any kind of image of what that's going to look like. But the book is an investigation into this year on July 24th will be the 130th anniversary of the murder of a woman named Jane McKechnie Walton, who was murdered down in the Four Corners area of the United States on July 24th, 1891. I had heard about this story as I was growing up, and that's going to be the cover. The text hasn't been put together on the book yet.
Man, that turned out good.
Yeah, isn't that awesome?
That turned out really well.
Yeah, it's so exciting. And folks, the woman who was murdered was my great-great-grandmother. I heard this story my entire life from my grandfather, and I thought, holy cow, I've been a policeman for 30 years. Maybe I ought to look into that. And it took about 10 years. And after a 10-year period of time, I was able to solve the murder, and that's what the book is about. So it's a great book, talks a lot about U.S. History during the 1800s, and then it talks about a thing called Hole in the Rock, which is the most terrifying pioneer feat in U.S. pioneering history, where a group of settlers, one of which was my great-great-grandmother and my great-great-grandfather, who built a road in the side of a 2,000-foot sheer cliff down to the bottom of the Colorado River and lowered 80 wagons and 2,000 head of cattle down there. So she was an amazing, powerful woman who sadly was murdered way before her time.
Okay, I think we've tiptoed. I'm slept. What is Tyler? Will you call Tim and check in on him? We got to see what's going on with him. We got a couple questions. Let's get to some of the cases we're covering.
Crime.
Yeah, let's talk crime for just a minute, and don't shy away from these other questions about who Mike is and stuff. We'll keep them coming, but we also don't want to make you think we're ignoring things. So. I'm assuming this is referring to Suzanne Morphew and Barry Morphew. When will the arrest affidavit be released?
Your guess is as good as mine. I think we're waiting. The court has another scheduled hearing coming up. We hope that the judge will release the affidavit by that time. If you recall, that Linda Stanley, the prosecuting attorney, is saying publicly that she wants the arrest affidavit released. The defense is arguing that it would sensationalize the case. I keep going back to Barry putting on his plea for people to help him find Suzanne, or voting for President Trump with Suzanne's ballot, as something that is a whole lot more sensationalized than releasing facts of the state's alleging charges of murder against him. So I think we're going to see it sooner than later. We just got to hang in there, and they haven't let us down yet. So let's hang in there.
Mm-hmm. So I had another one about Suzanne, and I'm sorry I lost it, but it was asking, I'll try to find it. It was asking about the DNA. Do you think there's enough DNA for a conviction? Oh, here we go. Jackie Swan.
So I guess the question, Jackie, would be what DNA? And if it's enough to identify an individual, then it's certainly enough to help in getting a conviction. And this is what's so important about that we've talked about on multiple occasions, is there are multiple forms of evidence. And if this case were built only on DNA, in my opinion, it would be a real shaky case. So if the DNA is Suzanne's DNA transferred somewhere else, in effect, in a vehicle owned that she wouldn't normally be in, which kind of takes Barry's vehicles out of the question, or Barry's DNA found on something somewhere, or an item that might have been used in her homicide having DNA on it. That's really a kind of a tough question, because it's DNA from where, whose DNA, and what were the circumstances around it of whether it would be heavy enough to assist. But the bottom line is, remember, there's physical and forensic evidence. There's eyewitness accounts. There are circumstantial kinds of evidence. And as we look at these different kinds of evidences, cases that are won in court are won when multiple forms of evidence are brought together in the same case, because they sit and fortify each other. And again, we wouldn't want it to be one single form.
And I think we have a video or two about the different forms of evidence out there. Tyler, maybe we'll put that in the notes, a link to that video.
Yeah,
that'd be great.
I actually went through all 4 forms, and then the 5th form, which is behavior, just a few days ago in the Tristyn Bailey video, talking about the evidence that was recovered in that case against Aiden Fucci. So, go back and look at that. Also go back, just even look on our site and look for forms of evidence, and it will take you into a number of places where we talk about that.
For sure. Tastefully frugal. Thank your dad for us. What a great career. And we love Houston Police Department here. So that's awesome.
We're thrilled. I would love to pull up a picture of me and Skylar and the Houston police chief a couple of years ago with President Trump in the background as we were sitting at a meeting in, I think it was Philadelphia then. I can't remember where we were, but the Houston police chief has remained a longtime friend. We love Houston. Gosh, maybe I even know your dad, because I do know a lot of Houston cops and have been in the PD many, many times.
Let's see here. Keep them coming, everyone. These are great questions. I was about 10 minutes behind on the chat reading through some questions, so I'm catching up now, trying to find some stuff. This is an interesting question. I don't know if we have an answer for it, but it's an interesting thought about if the daughters were at court during the last hearing. Uh-oh, we lost Mike. Tyler, are you still there? Thumbs up. Okay, we lost Mike. Well, welcome to the Skylar Show, everyone. We're going to talk about Pokemon cards now. Let's see. Let's ask some questions. So ask some questions about Mike. I can answer some questions about him while we're waiting for him to come back. So how did Mike and Chris meet? They met through the I think the what is that thing called? The homicide or the unsolved. What is that called, Tyler? Type it for me. Maybe, or you can come in and say it. But they met through work and had a lot of things in common. Cold Case Foundation. Thanks, Tyler. They met through the Cold Case Foundation. That's my fault. But they had a lot of things in common, personal things in common. So they became friends over the years through that. Mike is frozen. Mikey is frozen. Algo, you're right. Cold Case. What made you start the podcast? Well, I didn't start the podcast. So Tyler and I were sitting on Mike's deck about a year ago, pressuring him to start telling some of these stories. And Tyler really pushed him over the edge to do it. And so it's just, things that we've heard for a long time, stories that we've heard for a long time. And a lot of them were pretty inspiring. And Mike's a pretty humble guy, and it's hard to get him to talk about any of his accomplishments. So it took several years. Tyler, feel free to come and join me. But it took several years to get him to actually jump on this podcast stuff, YouTube stuff, and actually start telling these stories. And I think the thing that really kept him wanting to do it is the good he's been able to do from doing it. We've been able to donate to the Children's Justice Center from the book sales, make great donations to them, help them out. I mean, being able to get these kids that were a part of this Zion Society cult years ago some help going forward, education opportunities, things like that. I think the good that can be done with our community, with the true crime community, is what this is all about. Right. We're trying to bridge the gap between law enforcement and the community appropriately so that we're not interfering with them, but we're becoming another tool on their tool belt. And then also, as a community, we can help victims and other people really do, get back on their feet or get some counseling, get help. I mean, you know, it's none of us want to go through what some victims have gone through, and our community is here to help with that. How am I related to Mike? I'll let you guys keep that. That you guys can. Mike's power went out and he's working on coming back. Oh, thanks, Tyler. I'll let you guys determine that. You guys can sit and debate how I'm related to Mike. It's one of those. Let's see. Did you want to be a cop or Skylar? So that's a great question. You know, I remember the conversation with my parents. In fact, I worked for Ogden Police Department for a couple of years, doing real-time crime center stuff. And and I ended up doing some things that got me into public safety sales, being an account manager. And I've worked with law enforcement for the past almost 10 years. So yes, I've always wanted to be a cop, but I found a better way for my family to stay in contact with them continuously. You know, I get to meet with chiefs and all those folks all the time and work with them. Oh, sorry, you can see, let's see, right here, you can see my screens. That might be kind of annoying. I need to fix that, huh, Tyler? Let's see what else we got. I look like Mike. Well, thanks. I hope I do a little bit. I validated I am related to Mike. I worked up at Hill for many years. That's awesome. I knew a couple of the lieutenant colonels up there, and for the police, the military police, great people there. That's awesome that you worked up at Hill Air Force Base. That's great. Here comes Mike back again. Married in. Sketty Nona, I don't know what you mean by married in. How are you related? Everyone just wants to know how we're related. Let's see. Looks like Mike's coming back in just a sec. Your professionalism, along with Mike and everyone else, is outstanding. Thank you for all the dedication and commitment to make this world better. It's a beautiful thing. Well, thank you, Annie E. We sure appreciate you tuning in. We love all our listeners. You know, you all are why we keep doing it, why Mike keeps doing it. Judy, I'm not Mike's nephew. I'm not his nephew.
Hey,
ooh, that's really good quality.
Yeah. Had a major outage here in the command center. So, how's everybody doing?
They're good. They just keep trying. They just keep trying to guess how we're related. Mike said it several times, so I feel like you all should know. No, Tyler is married into the family. That's one we do know. But yes, no, I'm Mike's son. We'll make it simple. Tyler and Skylar are twins. I don't know who should be offended by that statement. Well, let's get back. Mike, we had some oh man, Sketty's got some information, some intel here on you. We had a question if there's any update on the West Boys.
You know, the Bakersfield Police Department is keeping that really close to the vest. It sounds like they continue to work it. They continue to serve search warrants. There's scuttlebutt suggesting, still pushing toward this idea that there may have been some efforts at trying to extort some people as a result of this case, that there might be some trafficking involved, but that's just what I'm reading, as I'm sure many other people are reading online, and we just continue to hope that they're going to surface.
Well, that's good. I saw a good question that's kind of funny. This one. Have you ever had a day stuck in a car with a partner that ate too much chili for lunch?
There's never too much chili. That's funny.
How about anything happening with Randy Leach?
You know, I actually had 3 emails this morning on the Randy Leach case, and there are some interesting things kind of cooking on that. Some might be ghost story, other might have actual legs to it. The cool news is that these cases remain alive and that there are people who are pushing them. And that's really the value of a channel like this, in my opinion, is that you, the public, continue to kind of keep these things floating. I've talked to the former sheriff a number of times that was there at the time that Randy disappeared. I've left messages for the current sheriff to try to offer some things. And actually, we at Profiling Evil had scheduled to be out there at one time, but then kind of pulled back the reins while we wait for some other things to happen. So kind of a long way around answering, but people aren't forgetting Randy or all of these other cases. There just are so many darn cases, aren't there?
Yeah.
Thanks, Joe Me.
Somebody asked or said that the name Skylar was a good choice, and I think this is where it came from, if I'm not wrong, or at least that's where my grandpa said.
That is exactly where it came from. His grandfather is correct. And only if you're old would that mean anything to you at all. So, or if you're Skylar. Yeah. Yeah, that's funny.
All right. Anybody have any more questions? We're coming up on a half hour, but our viewers just keep growing. We don't want to leave y'all hanging if you have some stuff. So
some things are hereditary. I want to just say some things are hereditary. Skylar, I don't know. I'm a gambling guy and a profiler, but do you have any beverages sitting on your desk, and would you hold that up if you do?
Well, I think they saw it, right?
Oh, they did? Yeah, so there you go. See, folks, it's genetic. It's a prescription, and really can't do much about that. You know, I did have someone send me an email. I want to show a picture.
Yes, I'm old for remembering. You aren't too old if you remember Sky King. Don't feel bad about it. That picture was in color, so you can't be that old.
So someone sent me an email recently asking about a picture that was on my wall behind me, and this is the picture. If I can get this to show up, I don't know if you can see that very well. You kind of can. It's this picture was hand drawn by
Hold it up
Dan
and tilt
Lafferty.
it. Hold it up and tilt it just a little bit out of the light. So tilt it the other way.
Oh, there we go. All right, so folks, this picture was well. In fact, let's see if we can see the writing on there.
Inscription on there.
It's signed by Dan Lafferty, who murdered 2 people, and he sent this to me from prison for Christmas one year, and kind of creeped out the family that this still hangs on my wall. But with that, he sent a couple of other drawings that are kind of hard to see that I've never really done anything with. But little prison art. This is with a pencil and a pen. And the thing that's so significant about this is you'll see that moon shining. This particular offender was a religious killer. He and his brother believed that they were prophets of God, and his brother was the voice of God, and he was the arm of God, which meant he was the one that got to kill people, and the other one got to tell him who to kill. And here's a bunch of letters that he's written me over the years, and in those, again, boy, kind of hard to see, but. In those, he describes the pictures in detail, and on one particular occasion, he said to me as we were talking through why he ended up murdering someone was, you're having a hard time understanding this, aren't you? And I said, well, yeah, it doesn't make sense to me. And he said, well, the moon will shine from noon till 9. And then he looked at me like, you get it? And I said, Dan, I don't quite understand. And he says, yeah, that's the revelation. That's when I knew I needed to start killing people, is because the moon was out in the middle of the day, and he said Elijah the prophet came and spoke to me and told me. So we used that to keep his case from being overturned, and he always has since then, every Christmas, sends me a card and says, just want you to know I'm still a prophet and I'm still going to get out of prison one day, and everything else. But yeah, that's the kind of the personalities we deal with sometimes, I guess.
So let's see. Are you back to where? There we go. What was it like to have a dad as a cop? He was done doing the patrol stuff before I could even remember, and even moved on to private sector stuff before I even remember. I was a year old during the Zion Society stuff. So luckily I don't have a whole lot of recollection, but I'm sure it was not a fun thing to come home every night to a 8, 5, 4, and 1-year-old after dealing with that stuff all day and just thinking about those kids. Not that he was ever upset with us, but it just, he could never escape the kids and the sadness that came from that case. But I remember the fun stuff. I remember going to see the SWAT, and going into the SWAT locker and getting to hold all the cool guns in there and go, tour the jails and stuff like that. So I remember all the fun stuff, but fortunately he was out of all the, the really scary stuff by the time I was old enough to understand, but he never brought it home, which was good. I just can't imagine, coming home after dealing with kids that were abused for years and years and seeing your own kids. I mean, I think of my kids, like I start having these weird, like, thoughts of what happens if my oldest daughter got kidnapped, just knowing her and her personality, like what would be going through my mind, thinking about what's going through her mind, and that, like, it hasn't even happened. Nobody I know has been kidnapped, and it still messes my brain up and makes me start panicking and just thinking what he saw. That couldn't have been easy. Is that the criminal? Let's see, here's one. So this must be referring to Lafferty. Oh
yeah, Lafferty has been talked about a lot. The book Under the Banner of Heaven by Krakow is about the Lafferty murders. Actually, we've got in the can about a month and a half, 2 months ago. I spent about an hour talking with Dan Lafferty. His brother is now dead, died in prison. And we talked about the case, and we're going to show that at some point. It's such a horrific homicide that we're trying to figure out how to tastefully do it. So,
did you do any undercover work?
Wendy, I want you to know, I had one night doing undercover. I was assigned to work Vice, which was buying street workers, buying prostitutes. And they put a body wire on me, and they sent me with a senior detective down into the bar area of our city. And I went up to one of the prostitutes and engaged in a conversation. And she started saying all the things that was gonna happen, and I was absolutely dumbfounded. I'm kind of obviously pretty stupid, I guess, but
innocent.
Going, you got to be kidding me! You would do that for $30, And finally, the sergeant pulled up in the street and honked on the horn and called me over and said, "You know what? I think you'd be better off working something else." And I was transferred to the SWAT team, and so that was the end of my undercover experience. Now, that said, I ran an undercover sting operation team, buying stolen cars and selling stolen cars. But I always used informants because I just wasn't very good at it.
Didn't you one time, before people really knew you were a police officer, get caught by like a neighbor buying a prostitute or something, and they asked you about it?
Yeah. Actually, it was our pastor.
Church clergy type thing.
Yeah, it was the clergy. Happened to be driving through an area when I was working vice and saw me talking to a prostitute and was really concerned that I'd gone off the deep end. Had no idea I was a policeman. And most people, I never really portrayed that I was a policeman during my career. Not many people really even knew that I did that for a living. So
that's one of my favorite stories, honestly.
You know, I want to mention a little later today or maybe tomorrow, I'm going to release a little more information on the Tristyn Bailey homicide. And folks, for those of you who have been watching it, we'll put out a video about Fucci's arraignment yesterday and the maneuvering that the new defense team, which is a public defender team, did. They submitted a not guilty plea and moved for a pre-hearing, which for a preliminary hearing, but a pre-hearing on July 28th. But we'll talk through some of the dynamics of that. Also, we'll have in the next couple of days some stuff coming out on little Samuel Olson, who was murdered in Texas. Another Houston case for our Houston listener. Terrible case of the murder of a little 5-year-old who, if he would have stayed alive for 2 more days, would have been 6 years old. I mean, terrible case. Wow, thanks, JRS. That is so kind.
Thank you.
And woohoo, prescription medication. Thank you. That is really awesome. And folks, you all are just so nice to us. Thanks for sharing with your friends, and I hope you're hitting the subscribe button and joining the Profiling Evil family. We've really enjoyed some wonderful growth, and it's because of folks like all of you. And I got to ask you to shout out to these guys from the back office because they work their tails off. I just get up and yammer. So let's see. 12 steps. Nice to hear from you. I mention a lot what I'm not good at. That's what I guess I'm better at mentioning what I'm not good at.
Humility is his strength. How about that?
Yeah.
Since he's good at talking about how bad he is at things.
I used to be a pretty good fly fisherman, but I've lost a lot of my skill. So that's really nice of you to ask. I guess one thing, 12 step, that I've always been blessed with is the ability to get confessions. For some reason, and I think it's because I like people, but for some reason people can sense that I really do care about them. I've never not liked people. I just disdain certain behaviors, but I've always liked people. So. Oh, that's nice, Shelby. Thank you so much. I'd like to know what people are thinking on a couple of criminal fronts as well. So please, ask some questions in regard to criminal cases. But there are a lot of really good cases. Is there communication allowed between Lori and Chad? So they're in different jails. I don't know if they are allowed to communicate or not. They're co-defendants. So potentially, according to the Constitution, they have a right to participate in their defense, which would certainly mean they should have a right to be with each other. I just don't know if they're allowed to in this case. And frankly, with all that's going on in that particular case, you wonder if there's starting to be a schism created between them, and that we may not see one testify against the other. That will be interesting. And we're seeing now the competency issue. Today we released a video. If you haven't seen it, go back and watch today's video on Lori's competency and the competency hearing that was done. And we'll continue to do that. Lotus Flower, yeah, John Lorden is an amazing soul, and it was really great to be on his show a couple of times and to have him on our show a couple of times. And the answer is absolutely. We plan on doing it again, as I do with other YouTubers. It's a lot of fun to collaborate with them, And frankly, they're just some really neat people out there. So. Mercini, Papadaki. Gosh, I knew some Papadakis from Salt Lake. Anyway, do I think Joe Ryan was murdered? Here's what I think is it's interesting that so many people around Lori Daybell died. And Joe Ryan, when he died, there had been attempts on his life by Alex, as we all know. Now that it was just classified as an aggravated assault, but it's interesting because the behavior that's repeated of Alex going to the defense of his sister and I believe committing homicides very well could extend back there. The autopsy, there is still physical evidence. If you watch the video with Dr. Salerno, we talked about the fact that there is tissue that was collected, even though his body's been cremated. There's still tissue and other things, although it was a cursory autopsy. But now, as more and more of this unfolds, I would certainly hope that they're going back and re-examining, even though they've declared that it was a natural cause death. I hope they go back and re-examine Alex's death too, frankly. So.
I've got a good question here. This is one that I think we talk about in our family a lot, or at least with family and friends, as far as, are things really getting worse or are we becoming more aware? And so the good doctora Latina, she wants to know. Oh, I'm sorry. Let's answer this one first because I did want. Sorry, Dra Latina. This is different from what I wanted, but I did want Mike to answer this one, and then I have another one queued up too.
You know, so I get in trouble, and again, I have to say it again. I have permission to call this wonderful subscriber Dra Latina, and I know that just twists a lot of your brains, but anyway, I don't know if there will be more done. It's almost, you wonder if government felt like they got their pound of flesh and there are so many other cases that they need to move on. And sometimes it is a traveling salesman kind of a decision of what do you have bandwidth to do, and do you go and look at current cases that need work, or do you look at something that you've pretty well satisfied the public demand for justice? And gosh, I don't know, but Dra Latina, I would ask, what do you think? But my sense is that unless something falls in law enforcement's lap, they're not going to spend a lot of time digging, but that's my opinion.
So here's the one I was talking about, as far as with how easy it is to get information and give information anymore. Do you think things are really getting worse, or are we just becoming more aware?
Yeah, I think it's both. Talks to animals. I think number one, in this post-COVID period of time, we're going to hear more and more of offenses that have occurred in the last year because children haven't been in school where they can report abuses. They haven't been in churches where they can report abuses. And I think as we return to some normalcy, we're going to see the floodgates open up on cases of domestic related crimes. Now, that said, we have to acknowledge also that social media is putting more and more in front of us, especially those of us who are involved in the true crime genre that look for it. So it could be even a three-legged stool there. And Moonlight View, thank you so much. That's awesome. Really appreciate that. So I hope that answers the question on that. And it's the bandwidth holding up okay? Because I'm using my phone for my...
Yeah, you're okay.
Oh, good. Okay.
Let's see. How about this is a good question. This is a good I guess not psychological question, but a good view on society type of thing. How does Lori lie and get away with it basically her whole life? I guess it comes down to the thought of good things happen to bad people sometimes, or bad people get away with things sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, psychopaths are experts. They spend their whole life figuring out how to be good at what they do, which is psychopathy. And if you can get everyone looking some other direction, you can continue to do things. The other thing is, I don't know if I particularly agree with it, but people say she was a beautiful person and very charismatic. That makes it really hard for people to do things to judge in situations like that. You know, I had an interesting comment in one of our videos the other day, and it was clearly from an African American woman saying, "Why aren't we showing more stories about African Americans or others?" And all I could do is answer, "I don't know. We try, but it's again this psychopathy and this personality and this attraction of feigned wealth that seems to grab attention and gets propelled to the top when we see children who are living in poverty or in other regions of the world that never get their case identified or looked at. It's a really unfair system."
Yeah. I agree with that. I saw a meme the other day, or it was not a meme. It was a cartoon in a newspaper that kind of talks about like how the world starts to perceive things, and it's got a picture of it had both. It had male and women, so it had a very attractive woman in one of the comic strips and a very attractive man in the other, and he and she are both saying to a coworker, "Hey, good looking, how's it going?" And the coworker's like, "Oh, I'm great, I'm fine." And then the other one is they make this just hideous man and this hideous woman saying the same thing, "Hey, good looking, how's it going?" And the coworker's on the phone with HR saying, "Hey, I'm being harassed right now." And it kind of like you think about it, and those people just tend to get away with things. You look at like Richard Ramirez, how he had so many people in love with him because he was a handsome fellow, and they just see past the murders and the killings because of that. And it's sad. Like none of us, I hope, fall victim to stuff like that, but a lot of people fall victim to vanity and things like that in these cases. They're easily manipulated.
I saw this question that I thought was kind of interesting from Jomi. With public and social media, will judges start giving harsher punishments? I don't. Judges will have retention ballots where they're kept on the bench, but they're really not swung by public opinion that much. They are swung by the law, and that there are oftentimes sentencing guidelines that say you can only go this far, and we get really frustrated when we see that. But it's not necessarily that the judge is easy on crime. It's that the sentencing guidelines don't allow it. So we'd have to look at those on a case-by-case basis.
Here's a good question, pulling it back to Mike's more personal questions. If you had never done law enforcement, I'm assuming, what else would you have wanted to do? So if being a cop and going down that path wasn't the path you took, you talked about an astronaut and a garbage man, but toward your latter years in life, what would you look back and think, maybe I would have done this?
Well, folks, I work for a company called ESRI. It's Environmental Systems Research Institute. If I had a dream job in my life, it was law enforcement. If there was a second thing that has really been fulfilling in my life, it's been how GIS mapping can make a difference in the world. And I really have gotten so hooked on mapping and the influence. If you think about it, everything is a dot on the map. In police work, it could be where a bullet casing falls on the ground, or where a victim lived, or where a suspect shops each day. But everything is a point on the map or a dot on the map. And geography is incredibly powerful. But what I've learned is that there are so many other disciplines that can cross-pollinate. For instance, a few years ago, I was watching a biologist in Alaska talk about how he was using geography, GIS, to track the Arctic wolf around. And as he watched the wolf and watched the way it hunted, he was learning things. And I went up to him and asked him if we could use that same algorithm that he created to follow human predators and track them the way we track an Arctic wolf. And we actually together took something that was created by a biologist and turned it into a solution for law enforcement to geographically profile offender personalities and hunting grounds and other kinds of things. So I guess the question or the answer would be I really like geography now, so we'll see.
If you haven't been able to tell yet, he's a map nerd on all the maps he makes us put out and has you guys use. And every Sunday dinner when we show up, he takes us down to his office and shows us a map of our property up in the mountains and the properties you're allowed to hunt on and the ones you're not and how awesome it is. And he's definitely a map nerd.
Yeah,
here's a good one. Mike, go ahead and answer that. Maybe give a little teaser.
Hey, let's tease a little, Scott. Thanks for asking. Adventures with Purpose is actually in Oregon today. We talk almost daily. And Jared and Sam will be on choir practice Monday night with me. We're going to be talking about suicide. Now, that's kind of an odd discussion, but we're going to be talking about how the recent case with Tammy Goff impacted those guys. And we're going to be bringing on if you're older, a superstar musician, Alex Boyer, who will be on. And Alex is going to perform one of his songs that he did for his suicide prevention forum. And we're going to just laugh and have some fun and yet talk about a really serious topic. So yeah, we like the Adventures with Purpose guys. And of course, Sam, the Adventure Man, will be on with us as well. And then again, this is Alex's site. He has, 800,000 subscribers on YouTube and 3 million people that listen to him daily. So he's such a good man.
You might remember him. I think he was on America's Got Talent a couple of years ago, or 3 or 4 years ago, doing African version of the Taylor Swift song. Oh my gosh, now I can't remember what it's called. But anyway, it's pretty cool. You guys should check it out. Him on America's Got Talent. It's the Haters Gonna Hate song. I don't remember what it's called, but he does it in an African music type way. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, he actually showed up at our house last year during COVID and put a concert on in the street in front of our house, and we had the grandkids out front dancing and the neighbors dancing, and it was a lot of fun. But yeah, please join us for choir practice on Monday night because we're going to be talking about a little bit of heavy stuff with the suicide issue and talking with Adventures with Purpose. And we'll hopefully have some fun along the way. So why haven't they classified Lori as a serial killer? I've kind of mentioned the same thing, Janet. And by the way, I love your little, is that called an emoji? Is that what the little logo thing is called, Skylar?
Oh, her profile picture?
Yeah. Anyway, yeah.
The anonymous mask or whatever.
I know it was from a movie about what was the guy's name though? I can't remember. Anyway, so the question becomes if Lori did in fact kill or lead or drive the murder of JJ and Tylee and Charles and Alex and Joe Ryan, and people ask about others, then yeah, you could really question whether she is a serial predator or not. So it'll be interesting to see how it unfolds.
Thank you, April. That's the song.
Well, hey folks, you'll enjoy Alex Monday night. He's a lot of fun. He actually is going to be Burr in Hamilton in London as soon as their London theater opens back up. So anyway,
Dr. Pepper.
yeah, you people are just amazing. It is so fun to spend time with you, and we wanted to answer whatever questions you might have. I don't know, Skylar, if there's some other things that are pressing on there, but
we're 5 minutes out from an hour of this. Maybe we'll open it up for 5 more minutes. Yeah, or if nothing comes in the next 2 minutes, maybe we won't.
Yeah, and this is a great reminder from Miss Sophia, and thanks to our mods. But yeah, I don't care if you give donations, but if you do, it certainly helps us out. I mean, this stuff isn't cheap to put on a channel,
and we're empty.
Do all this, and we do have to have Dr. Pepper. Yeah, thank you, Miss Sophia, because I don't know, it's easy to find something to complain about, folks, but we really try to be pretty straight up and honest. So thanks a lot to all of you that just jump to my defense. We really do like you all, and it's just we try to be fair and have a lot of fun. So the cases that we need to kind of keep thinking about, the B.O.L.O case, obviously, and there will be a lot more on B.O.L.O daybells as information becomes available. The Morphew case will continue to roll out as we learn things. And folks, I don't know, I hope you caught it, but nobody else has been able to get the district attorney to come on a couple of times. And the reason is I know it's frustrated some of you that we won't ask some of the hard questions, but there's a time and place for everything, and we'll continue to do things the way we should. I actually had a call yesterday from Dr. Phil's team, and the doctor's looking at his schedule, said he wanted to pop in one day, so we'll see if he pops on the show with us. But we have been so fortunate to have Vinnie Politan from Court TV on the show with us, to just have some people who are pretty remarkable. And I think it's because of the quality of comments and stuff that y'all do. Do we have something there you want to talk about, Skylar?
No, I'm just reading through some, like DDD Shaughnessy. If you put up 3 questions, sorry, we're trying to get to as many as we can. Obviously we're not doing this for the donations, but if you're like desperate to get your question read, I prioritize those over everything else, but you still will get questions put up, like Mike said, regardless. But I just can't promise I can get them all up. How about this question? Oh no, I just lost it. Do you think you'll ever get some behavioral specialists on, those who can read body language and such? Whoops.
Well, I guess we can look at someone that does body language. So Boston Girl 76, we've had some pretty amazing behavior people on. I mean, we have on a regular basis Mark Safrick, who led the FBI profiling unit. We have Greg Cooper on often, who led the profiling unit. That's what I did is profiling. We have Dr. Judy Ho, forensic neuropsychologist, who understands behavior incredibly well. We have Scott Johnson, forensic psychologist, who comes on a regular basis. We have Ann Moncton Smith, who comes on the show and does behavioral analysis. And we're trying, and we'll keep trying. And Louise, I actually had a text from Vinnie. The question is absolutely, I'll be on Court TV again and many times. I guess as long as Vinnie still puts up with me and his team does. We average about twice a month going on, and that seems to work for our schedule. And he is always really great about calling up and inviting me on, so that's very nice.
See through. If I ignored a paid one, please type it right now, and I'll make sure it gets answered. I'll look for yours. I don't remember missing one, but if I did, I'm sorry. So go ahead and type it in the thing right now, or in the chat right now. Love this live. So Talks to the Animals. We will be doing another AMA, Ask Mike Anything, for the not this coming choir practice, but the following. We'll do another one. And maybe we'll get somebody else to join in, maybe not, and we can just do an ask them everything or something, or ask them anything.
And on our upcoming choir practices, Skylar, we still have to give away some of Emma Hoskins' books. Who, if you remember Emma from the Netflix series The Keepers, Emma's been on the show a couple of times and has sent some books for us to give away. We also have another book that we need to do some giveaways on, so we'll do that. So what's this one?
So this, I think, is what See-Through did a donation for that I must have missed. Thanks, Jeff, for finding it and posting it for us. So she asked, Melanie Gibb has stated that she knew in advance that Alex Cox was going to kill Charles B.O.L.O in self-defense. She said it was planned, all planned. Your thoughts?
So See-Through Canada or California, whichever, thank you so much. So I usually don't comment on something that I haven't seen come out from a bona fide source yet. So if in fact that is accurate, that would be really big news. With Alex being dead, it's not as threatening for Lori unless we can tie Lori back to the planning and premeditation, and I'm the voice of God, you're the arm of God. And that's why I showed you that picture earlier, because that really becomes powerful and can lead to the conviction for even the person that says, hey, I'm just the idea here. So
I'm doing a veterans initiative with some local leaders. So you can email us or get us on Facebook. If you're following us on Facebook, you can message us there too. I believe our email is in the comment notes or in the YouTube notes below. So email us. We try to stay away from. Everyone will want us to help with their local things, and we want to help with as much as we can. So we're pretty selective of what we do, but we would love to hear about it because we love veterans here. So. But yeah, please send us a message, send us an email. If you can't find the email in the notes below, just find us on Facebook or Instagram. You can DM us on there as well, and we'll be happy to talk and see what we can do. Let's see, Skylar. Let's see, dog to confine. Skylar, do you think the new science of Paul Dost dog to confine? Julie, I haven't a clue what you're talking about. Do you, Mike?
I'm sorry, Julie. I don't understand it either.
Maybe shoot us a message on Facebook or Instagram or tweet or something. Hit us on Twitter about this, because I'm not familiar with Paul Dostai or Dog 2. Be interesting to learn a little more about it though. See through. Thank you. Sorry we missed you the first time around. Let's see.
Hey, it's fun for me, and I really appreciate Skylar getting on. Now, Maureen, I'd like to know where you're from. That's really nice that you would jump on with us. I would guess, just based on what I saw, that it's, I don't know, about 10 o'clock at night where you are. So
this is
source. Okay, so now the question becomes, See-Through, is a podcast or a podcaster information that I'm comfortable on saying it's true because someone said it and I'm not. I don't know the True Crime AD. I'd love to meet him and I'll look him up. But again, I probably disappoint a lot of you, but I kind of lean on something that comes from a bona fide government source that's backed up with some kind of information. So,
yeah, it's the safest bet in this world. Speculation is the fastest way to not solve a crime, I think.
Well, and you know what, folks, I'll use an example from the Samuel Olson case. If you remember, the woman who now is the focus of Samuel's death, the girlfriend of Samuel's father, made a false report that Samuel's biological mother and a policeman came and took the child from their house. And the police and all of the neighborhood, because the police showed up, believed initially that she had something to do with the child's abduction. Now, that poor woman went through hell, not only having her child disappear, and I don't know what kind of mother she was, but because of a speculation and a false story that got told over and over again, had to live through that process until they found the body and applied the investigative techniques to it. So horrible thing, and we'll talk more about that one in upcoming shows. So,
and I did see a question asking who AWP is, and we've gotten it answered several times, but we want to make sure they're shouted out. It's Adventures with Purpose. You can find them on YouTube, as well as social media would be Jared Lysick. I don't ever remember how to say his last name.
Lysick.
But Lysick, yeah. So you guys can find them there. They are a dive team that started by finding cars and things like that, and have now turned themselves into a resource to help find missing persons. And they go dive in water sources near missing person or locations of missing persons, and do their best to locate the cars or the bodies or whatever they can.
Yeah. So please join us Monday night for that. And Skylar Maureen Walsh came back. She was from the UK, where we thought, but was formerly, and I think a native of Ireland.
Oh, cool. Very cool. It's 10 p.m. there. Well, thanks for hanging out at 10 p.m. from across the pond. And Sam the Adventure Man. Thank you, Sean. Yeah. Sam the Adventure Man's part of them as well. And he has his own YouTube channel titled the same, Sam the Adventure Man.
I want to answer Annie's just quickly. Okay. Yeah, no question. I'd love a confession from Barry Morphew, if in fact he is responsible for Suzanne's death. I would like to see her brought home, but then very close to that is the B.O.L.O girl in Florida, who again is one of those underserved African American that nobody wants to talk about, and I just think about her a lot. So.
Awesome.
Thanks, Skylar.
Yeah, I think this was good. I think save your questions for a week from Monday, and we'll do this again. This is yeah. I think this is a good thing. We like getting Mike talking about things. He gets hyper focused on his cases, and we don't get to know the Mike behind the mic. Oh, that's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Hey, I will mention one thing. Monday night will be, for those of you who are channel members, as soon as choir practice is over, we'll have the Monday once monthly channel members chat where you can call in and we'll have conversation and talk. So please consider channel memberships, folks. I mean, you can get into that for as low as like $1.99 a month or something. And it, again, really supports and helps us to pull this thing off. But thanks so much for pushing me to do this, Skylar. Thanks to the back office. And I'm going to follow your lead on how we end this call.
Well, yeah, just make sure you've liked the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're on all social media platforms. We're not super awesome at TikTok, but we're bringing somebody in to help us in TikTok. So Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all those places, make sure you follow us there, because some things get announced there that don't get announced on other platforms. Dr. Phil made us do TikTok, just so everyone knows. He's the one that forced our hand there. And so make sure you're following us there, subscribed here. share us with your friends and family. We really appreciate, the love and support we get that helps us keep doing this. And I think I think we'll leave it at that. I'll leave Mike the last word, and then yeah.
The last word is, folks, if any of you are ever in a position that you're being victimized, please get a hold of law enforcement immediately, or reach out to your medical or your mental health provider and get help, especially if you're in a domestic violence situation. My experience has shown that it doesn't get better on its own. You need serious intervention, and there are too many lives lost in this world as a result of domestic violence. So please take heed of that, and watch for things that we've got coming up. Today at 6 o'clock Eastern time, we'll have Brandon Tatum. And if you haven't listened to Brandon Tatum he'll be on at 6 o'clock Eastern tonight. What an amazing former police officer and soul he is. Just love chatting with him and the association we have with him. And start watching for the Profiling Evil series on the Zion Society, a new podcast series that's going to be coming out in a couple of months. I say that just to put a little pressure on the back office, and I think you're going to really enjoy that podcast series when it launches. If you haven't been listening to Mapping Evil, our Mapping Evil with Mike King show in Australia and Southeast Asia, go to your favorite podcast platform and get Mapping Evil. It sprang to number 3 on the true crime charts for Apple in Southeast Asia. We're just thrilled about it. And Owen will take advantage of this last moment to say, please look at our swag and look at purchasing some of the merchandise. And all of that stuff helps us. Yes, I'm asking you to consider donating because
a fanny pack.
Pull this off. But again, most importantly, know that we really appreciate it. Please hit the subscribe button, and we'll see you all soon on Profiling Evil.
I'm buying a fanny pack right now.
So I think one of us